This is going to be a long one, so grab a coffee, maybe a box of tissues because I need to tell you how the life I'd built, the life I thought was absolutely rock-solid, forever mine, was obliterated at 38,000 feet, somewhere over the Atlantic. My name is Charlotte, and for 10 years I was married to Michael. Michael, the golden boy. The one who had that relentless, charming ambition that could talk anyone into anything. The one who promised me the world, bought me a house in the best part of Scottsdale, and gave me a life that looked like the cover of a glossy magazine. Our story wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was a carefully constructed fortress of mutual respect, shared goals, and yes, a deep, comfortable love. Or so I believed. It was my sister Amelia who actually saw him. Amelia, my younger sister, the restless, spirited one who became a flight attendant, an international air hostess, as she likes to call it, for a luxury airline. She lives for the jet lag, the 3-day layovers in exotic cities, and the crisp, impeccable uniform. Her life is all movement and altitude. Mine was stability and grounded roots. We were opposites, but we were tethered by a bond only sisters understand. The flight was from LAX to Amsterdam Schiphol, AMS. One of those 9-hour red-eye voyages where the wealthy settle into their plush, lie-flat pods in business class, trying to forget they're trapped in a metal tube. Amelia was working the forward cabin, serving champagne, adjusting mood lighting, checking on the elite passengers. It was just another Thursday night for her. She had just finished tucking in a demanding hedge fund manager and was moving down the aisle, her smile practiced and perfect, when she saw him. Her heart did that weird, physical stutter only trauma can induce. It wasn't just a passing resemblance. It was Michael, my husband, Michael. He was in one of the coveted window seats, 2A, she later told me, the best seat in the house, and he wasn't alone. The woman next to him was undeniably stunning, not in a cheap, manufactured way, but with that effortless, expensive kind of beauty. Raven hair, cut in a sleek, powerful bob, an emerald silk pajama set provided by the airline, and a diamond tennis bracelet that flashed under the soft cabin light. She was leaning close to Michael, her hand resting lightly on his forearm, and Michael was looking at her, not with the polite, distant respect he showed clients or the distracted affection he sometimes gave me, but with an intense, proprietary tenderness. The kind of look that said, "You are my entire world right now." Amelia told me she actually stopped breathing. Her training, her professional armor, nearly cracked right there on the synthetic carpet. She moved past them like a ghost, her gaze locked on the small private screen on the back of his seat. She didn't dare make eye contact, but she heard a snippet of their conversation just before Michael lowered his voice. The woman, a name Amelia registered only as a soft, melodic sound, was complaining about the price of a vintage Bordeaux, and Michael chuckled, a low, intimate sound that Amelia knew better than her own heartbeat. He said, "Don't worry, darling. Amsterdam is buying." Amsterdam is buying. That little phrase, so casual, so affluent, hit Amelia with the force of an air pocket. My Michael, who was supposedly in Boston, closing a huge deal with a software company, a deal that required him to wear a cheap rented suit and stay in a moderately priced hotel near the financial district. Amelia got to the galley, slipped into the lavatory, and locked the door. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She pulled out her phone and snapped a single shaky picture of the boarding pass tucked into the seat pocket of 2B, the seat next to Michael. The woman's name, clear as the runway lights at dawn, Eva Van Der Meer. Then Amelia did the only thing she could. She put on her game face, finished her shift, and kept the terrible secret locked behind her practiced smile until she landed in Amsterdam. That's where the call came from. A frantic midnight call to me in Arizona, a call that began with Amelia's voice, a tight, thin wire of barely controlled horror. "Charlotte," she whispered, the background noise a jarring cacophony of a busy international airport. "I need you to sit down. I need you to listen to me, and you have to promise me you will not say a single word until I'm finished." And that, right there, was the moment the foundation of my life began to crumble into dust. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe now to support me and motivate me to make more such videos. Do let me know in the comments of where you're watching from. The sound of Amelia's breath hitching on the other end of the line was the only thing louder than the sudden, brutal pounding in my own ears. I was sitting on the edge of our perfectly made bed, our bed, in the perfectly curated master bedroom of the house we had designed together. Outside, the desert night was quiet and vast. Inside me, a storm was brewing. "Amelia, you're scaring me," I managed, my voice a dry, reedy sound. "Is everything okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. I'm in Amsterdam, but you're not. Not when you hear this." He was holding her hand, Charlotte. He was whispering in her ear. He looked like a man on a honeymoon. I slid off the bed and onto the cold travertine floor. The shock was so profound it manifested physically, a sudden, deep chill that shook me to my core, despite the warm Arizona night. I couldn't speak. I could only hear Amelia's desperate, apologetic voice pouring into my ear. "I'm so sorry. I know this is awful. I didn't know how to tell you. I couldn't call from the air. I had to wait until I landed. I know the timing is insane, but I had to tell you now, before he calls and tells you he's stuck in some snowstorm in Massachusetts." "The itinerary," I finally croaked out, the word tasting like ash. "The Boston itinerary. I have it. He emailed it to me." "He faked it," Amelia said simply. "He bought a ticket to Boston, sent you the confirmation, and then changed it to Amsterdam last minute. Or maybe he always intended to go to Amsterdam and used a burner email for the fake itinerary. It's easy, Charlotte. He's good at this." He's good at this. The casual cruelty of that observation sliced through me. Michael was a master strategist in his professional life. It stood to reason he would be one in his private one, too. The meticulous planning, the fabricated story, the 9-hour window of pure, luxurious deception. "Where is he staying?" I asked, my voice now strangely calm, an unnatural stillness descending over me. This wasn't grief yet. It was tactical planning. It was the adrenaline of the trapped animal. I don't know the hotel, but I got her name. Eva Van Der Meer. And I know they landed about an hour ago. He said something about Amsterdam is buying. Maybe it's a business trip, a real one, where she's the client and they mixed. Pleasure? Amelia tried to cling to a professional excuse, a lifeline for my sanity, but I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. "No. Michael doesn't take clients to Amsterdam in business class on a Tuesday, not without telling me. He takes me to Amsterdam." We hung up, Amelia promising to text me every flight detail she could find in the airline's internal system without getting fired. I didn't go back to bed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went to Michael's mahogany desk in his home office, the desk where he supposedly closed million-dollar deals. I turned on his laptop. He had always been scrupulous about passwords, but I knew the one for his personal machine. It was our first dog's name, followed by the year we got married. A sentimental detail, now utterly perverse. I logged in and went straight for his travel and personal emails. Nothing in the main inbox. He was too smart for that. But buried deep in the archived folders labeled cryptically 2015 Annual Review Docs, I found it. A folder filled not with reviews, but with love letters. Not letters, actually. Booking confirmations, digital receipts, not just for Amsterdam. A weekend in Napa 6 months ago, at a resort he told me he was visiting with his college buddy David. a week in a rented villa in Italy last spring, which he had explained as a solitary recharge trip after a high-stress merger. Every single receipt was for 2 people. Every single email exchange was laced with sickening, saccharine endearments. But the most current one, the one that made me physically recoil, was for the trip to Amsterdam. A 5-day stay at the Conservatorium Hotel. Not a business class ticket, but a first-class ticket back to New York 5 days from now. He hadn't booked a return flight to Arizona. He wasn't coming home directly. He was going to New York first. The emails revealed a story I couldn't have imagined in my worst nightmares. Eva wasn't just a fling. She was his fiancée. Or more accurately, she was the woman he had promised to marry. He was setting up a separate life for them in Manhattan. The emails were full of discussions about apartment hunting, engagement rings, a 3-carat cushion cut, exactly like the one he had given me. Only hers sounded newer, bigger, and flawless. The sheer magnitude of his betrayal wasn't just the sex. It was the parallel life, the duplicate promises. It was the decade of my life, my trust, my soul, that he had systematically cannibalized to construct this second, secret reality. The Michael I loved, the man I trusted, was a ghost. A highly successful, well-dressed, utterly ruthless ghost. I looked at the receipts again. The date of the Napa trip was the same weekend I had been in the hospital for a minor surgery. He had been there in the mornings, bringing me flowers, holding my hand, his face a mask of concerned devotion, only to fly across the country that very afternoon to be with her. My initial icy shock cracked, and the wave of emotion that hit me was not sadness or even anger, but a raw, visceral rage, a molten fury that demanded action, not tears. He had taken my life, my history, and turned it into a lie. I wouldn't let him get away with it. I wouldn't be the naive, pathetic wife he returned to, full of excuses. I closed the laptop, the screen reflecting my own face back at me, a woman I barely recognized, pale, eyes blazing with a fierce, cold determination. I wasn't going to wait for him to come home. I was going to meet him on his turf. I was going to go to Amsterdam. The next 24 hours were a blur of cold, calculated movement. I didn't tell a soul, not even Amelia, who was now resting in her Amsterdam layover hotel, waiting for my instruction. My silence was my weapon. I packed one small carry-on, no sundresses, no toiletries, just my essential documents and the evidence I had meticulously printed out, the Conservatorium Hotel booking confirmation, the first-class ticket, the emails discussing the new apartment and the flawless ring. I left the rest of the house exactly as it was, a perfect monument to our perfect lie. I drained our joint bank accounts, not all of them, but enough to cripple his immediate liquidity. He always kept large sums in accessible accounts for business flexibility. That flexibility was now mine. I booked the fastest flight out of Phoenix to Amsterdam, an ugly, multi-leg journey that was the only option available on short notice. Sitting in the cramped Economy Plus seat, a stark contrast to Michael's lie-flat luxury, I finally allowed myself to feel the pain. It wasn't the searing fire of rage anymore. It was a deep, bone-aching hollow. 10 years. 10 years of planning, building, loving. I had given him my youth, my belief in the future, my unwavering faith. And he had treated it all like an inconvenient side project, something to be managed while he built his real life elsewhere. I thought about his voice, the way he used to call me Char, the way he'd kiss the back of my hand. Was any of it real? Did he ever love me? Or was I just a well-appointed piece of his overall ambitious persona, the successful man with the beautiful, supportive wife? The thought was like a shard of glass in my gut. He hadn't just cheated, he had misrepresented his entire existence. That's why Amelia's sighting was so devastating. He hadn't just stepped out of our life. He had been living 2 distinct, high-fidelity lives simultaneously. I landed at Schiphol feeling like a traveler from another planet, exhausted, wired, and functioning purely on adrenaline and a terrible sense of purpose. I immediately called Amelia, who was due to fly back to LA that afternoon. "I'm here," I said, my voice flat, emotionless. Amelia gasped. "Charlotte, what? You're here? Why didn't you say anything?" "I needed to see it myself," I told her. "I need you to stay out of sight. Keep your job, but I need you to do one last thing for me. Call the Conservatorium Hotel. Say you're his assistant, you've lost his reservation number, and you need to confirm his room number for an urgent package delivery. Use his full name, Michael S. Peterson. Be convincing." Amelia, bless her sisterly heart, didn't argue. An hour later, her text came through. "Room 501, corner suite." I took a cab directly to the Conservatorium Hotel. It was palatial, modern luxury, exactly the kind of place Michael would choose to woo a woman. I walked into the lobby, feeling utterly out of place in my travel-worn jeans and simple cashmere sweater, a quiet, predatory focus in my eyes. I didn't try to get a room. I didn't want to be a guest. I wanted to be an executioner. I found the house phone near the main bar, my fingers tracing the sleek, modern receiver. I took a deep breath, centered the cold, sharp truth of the situation, and dialed room 501. It rang once, twice, and then a smooth, deep voice that used to soothe me, that used to whisper promises in the dark, answered. "Hello? Michael Peterson." His voice, hearing it was like a punch to the stomach. It sounded relaxed, happy, utterly carefree. The sound of a man enjoying the fruits of his monumental deceit. "Michael," I said, my voice low and steady, a perfectly contained instrument of destruction. I used his full formal name, the way you address a business opponent. There was a silence on the other end, a sudden, sharp intake of breath. The air went out of the opulent Amsterdam hotel lobby. "Charlotte, what's wrong? Why are you calling me on the hotel line? I told you I was in a meeting. What is that noise? Where are you?" His initial smooth confidence had evaporated, replaced by a thread of pure panic. "I'm fine, Michael. The meeting is over." I paused, letting the silence stretch, letting him sweat. I could picture him now, standing by the vast, modern window of his suite, the city of canals spread out below him, his secret crumbling around his ankles. "I'm calling you from the lobby of the Conservatorium, room 501. I believe you left something behind in Scottsdale, and I flew all this way to return it to you." The click of the line disconnecting was swift and sharp, a tiny sound of total defeat. He hadn't even asked what I wanted to return. He knew. I waited for exactly 5 minutes, giving him time to frantically try to tidy up, to put Eva somewhere, to come up with the most pathetic, unbelievable lie he could muster. Then, I headed for the elevators. The ride up felt endless, the muzak in the elevator car a mockery of my impending disaster. 5th floor. I stepped out onto a plush, silent, carpeted hallway that smelled faintly of spice and expense. I found room 501. I didn't knock. I used the keycard I had picked up earlier from an extremely flustered and now silenced front desk manager, whom I had convinced I was a distraught, estranged wife with a critical medical package. I'd learned a few things from Michael about presenting an image of urgency and importance. The door swung open silently. The suite was breathtaking, a vision of glass and steel, with a panoramic view of the museum quarter. But my eyes went straight to the center of the room. Michael was there, standing ramrod straight, facing me. He was in his dressing gown, his face pale and etched with pure, unadulterated terror. He looked exactly like a man who had been caught red-handed. But he was not alone. Sitting on a leather armchair, holding a half-empty glass of fine whiskey, was a woman. Not the woman from the flight, not Eva Van Der Meer. This woman was blonde, older than me, mid-50s perhaps, dressed in a sleek black bespoke suit, her face perfectly composed, her expression one of utter cold pity. "Michael," I said, the name a whip crack in the silent room. "Where is she? Where is Eva Van Der Meer?" Michael opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked like a deer frozen in the headlights of a semi-truck. The woman on the armchair calmly took a sip of her drink and spoke, her voice a low, resonant alto, dripping with power and a subtle Dutch accent. "Ah, the famous Charlotte. So Michael finally gets to meet his match, no?" "No, my dear. You have made a mistake. I am not Eva." I turned to her, my blood running cold. "Then who are you?" She smiled, a slow, predatory curve of the lips. "I am Marijke. Eva Van Der Meer. Eva is my daughter. And Michael is not just my lover, Charlotte. He is my business partner. And he is about to become my husband." The entire world tilted. The simple, brutal act of adultery was now complicated by an astonishing professional betrayal. "You're... what?" My voice was barely a whisper. I looked at Michael, who finally seemed to find his tongue. "Charlotte, please, listen to me. This isn't what you think. Marijke is the CEO of the Van Der Meer Group. They control the tech company in Boston I was trying to land. Eva is just a pawn. A way to get me to Marijke." Marijke chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "A pawn he was entirely willing to sleep with, Michael. Don't cheapen my daughter's value. You slept with her, Michael, because you thought she was the key to my empire. You told her you loved her. You told me you loved me. You even promised to divorce Charlotte to marry us both." The sheer scope of his duplicity was dizzying. Michael wasn't just having an affair. He was running a complex professional scam, using women as stepping stones to a corporate takeover. He was using me as the stable, unsuspecting wife, while simultaneously seducing a mother and a daughter for financial gain. The first-class ticket, the conservatorium, the new apartment. It wasn't just for love, it was for power. I took a step forward, my eyes locked on Michael. The Boston trip. The meetings. It was all a lie to keep me distracted while you courted these two women, trying to land a fortune. It was a means to an end, Charlotte. A massive deal. If I had married Marijke, or even Eva, we would have been set for life. Everything I did was for us. He tried to use the plural pronoun, trying to drag me back into the circle of his deceit. I laughed. A sudden, harsh, broken sound that echoed in the luxurious suite. "For us? You bought Eva a 3-carat cushion-cut ring, Michael. The same ring you gave me, only newer. You were signing a lease on an apartment in Manhattan. You were building a new us, a better, more profitable us, and I was just the debt you were planning to write off." I reached into my bag and pulled out the stack of printed emails and receipts. I didn't throw them. I placed them gently on the marble coffee table, fanned out for both of them to see. I didn't fly all the way here to cry, Michael. I flew here to return what you really left behind, your consequences. I looked at Marijke. "Marijke, I'm guessing you're a formidable woman. You run a massive company. You must have done your due diligence on Michael. Did you check his financial status? His assets? His real marriage?" Marijke's calm veneer finally cracked. Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean the assets he was planning to bring to your marriage. The house, the savings, the portfolio he always boasted about. It was all community property. And 24 hours ago, I cleaned out every single liquid asset we shared. Our accounts are empty, Michael. The money is gone. You are now standing in the Conservatorium Hotel in a suite you can no longer afford, with a woman whose daughter you just betrayed, and you have nothing. No wife, no fiancé, no girlfriend, and no working capital." Michael stared at the receipts, then at me, then at Marijke, his face a horrifying mask of comprehension and loss. He hadn't just been caught, he had been ruined. "Charlotte, you can't. That's everything. That's the house. That's illegal," he stammered, his voice climbing to a shriek. "It's recoverable, Michael. But it's going to take months, maybe years, to sort out in court. And in the meantime, you have to explain to Marijke Van Der Meer why her prospective son-in-law is a financially destitute liar who used her daughter as a stepping stone. And then, you have to explain to the American IRS why you were running a fake business trip scheme for over a year. Marijke stood up, her eyes blazing. She didn't look at Michael. She looked at me. You are quite the player yourself, Charlotte. You have been silent for 10 years, and now you execute a perfect hostile takeover. I learned from the best, I said, nodding toward Michael. I learned how to be cold, ruthless, and highly strategic. But unlike him, I only had to do it once, for justice. I took one last look at Michael. I've instructed my lawyer, David, the same college buddy you were supposed to be with in Napa, to file the papers first thing tomorrow morning. I want nothing from you except your signature. Enjoy Amsterdam, Michael. And remember, first-class tickets are non-refundable. With that, I turned and walked out of the suite, the door clicking shut behind me, sealing my old life, and Michael's new one, in a gilded cage of consequences. I walked back down to the lobby, feeling lighter. The weight of the lie, the crushing pressure of Michael's deceit, had been lifted, but the exhaustion was profound. I found a quiet corner and called Amelia. She was already at AMS waiting for her flight. Amelia, it's done, I said, my voice finally shaking, the adrenaline fading. What happened? Are you okay? Did he hurt you? She asked, frantic. I told her everything, Marijke, Eva, the dual affairs, the corporate scam, the financial move. I told her how Michael had crumbled. Amelia listened in silence, and when I was finished, she simply said, Charlotte, you're a goddess. You didn't just survive this, you won. I just took back my life, Amelia, that's all? No, she insisted. You took back your dignity. You didn't let him write the final chapter. You wrote it yourself in Amsterdam, no less. Now, come to the airport. Come home with me. And that's how I ended up on the same luxury airline flying back to LAX, but this time in business class. A perk Amelia was able to secure using her employee discount and a little sympathetic maneuvering of the internal system. When I settled into the plush, lie-flat pod, I looked out the window. The lights of Amsterdam were winking out below us, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped. I felt free. Amelia came by my seat, her uniform crisp, her smile genuine. She didn't offer me champagne. She offered me a warm blanket and the simple, quiet company of a sister who understood. What are you going to do now, Char? She asked softly. I closed my eyes. I'm going to sell the house. I'm going to travel. I'm going to find the version of Charlotte I locked away 10 years ago when I married Michael the ambitious. Maybe I'll even take a few of your flights with you. The truth was, the financial maneuver was a temporary, desperate measure. Michael would claw some of the money back eventually through legal means, but the time it would take, the expense, and the humiliation of his public divorce, the damage to his reputation would be incalculable. And I would have the starting capital for a new life, a life built on my own terms, not his lies. As the plane climbed higher, I pulled out my phone. I deleted Michael's number, I blocked his accounts, I scrubbed him from my digital existence, and then I texted David, my lawyer, proceed with the filing. Now. Looking out at the stars, scattered like diamond dust across the black velvet of space, I thought about the irony. Michael had chosen to build his lies in the rarefied air of luxury travel, and it was in that very same space, 38,000 feet up, that his lies were finally exposed and destroyed, thanks to the watchful, loyal eyes of my flight hostess sister. The entire trip, the sudden betrayal, the desperate flight, the dramatic confrontation, had taken less than 48 hours. But in that time, I had lived a lifetime of heartbreak, strategic revenge, and finally, a quiet, profound redemption. I was flying home, not as the victimized wife, but as a warrior who had fought for her own worth and won. The end of my marriage wasn't the end of my life. I knew the pain wasn't over. Divorce is a messy, agonizing process, and the loneliness would come. But as I settled into the plush seat, pulling the blanket up to my chin, I felt an unfamiliar sensation: peace. I was alone, but I wasn't lost. And for the first time, I felt the vast, open future not as a threat, but as an invitation. I drifted off to sleep, the low hum of the jet engines now the sound of my escape. My last thought before I finally surrendered to rest was a silent thank you to Amelia, my angel of the air, who didn't just serve drinks, she served justice. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. What was the best part you liked in this story? Was it Charlotte's unexpected revenge, or her sister Amelia's initial brave step? Drop a comment below and let me know.